Welcome back. As director of the Missile Defense Agency, Vice Admiral John Hill has a complicated mission, keeping the U.S. and deployed forces safe with a layered defense system. Hill spoke to Defense News at the Space and Missile Defense Symposium in Huntsville, Alabama.
I wanted to talk about sort of an overarching, very important system that I don't think gets a lot of attention, which is the Command Control Battle Communications, or C2BMC system. It's embarking on another round of critical upgrades, and that's the backbone of worldwide missile defense capability. So talk about those upgrades and why they're necessary, and do you believe the C2BMC upgrade plan is adequate to keep up with the emerging threats?
Hey, great. First, I'll just tell you what C2BMC is, right? So Command Control, Battle Management, Communications. It is that hardened network that is global, that allows us to connect all things missile defense. It really started off as a way to connect homeland defense. So, and for those who are ship-oriented or battery-oriented, when you think about a ship or a Patriot battery or THAAD battery, you'll have the sensor and the command and control and the missile launchers all co-located, right? But when you look at a global intercontinental ballistic missile threat, you're going to want to have sensors that are way forward and that come back. You're going to have your missile fields in another area. You're going to have your command and control someplace else in the nation, right? So how do you connect all that together with the right latencies, the amount of data that you need to pipe through so that you can seamlessly detect, do the command and control, and then engage. And so C2BMC is that. And then what we found is once we connected up the Ground-Based Missile Defense Program, Ground-Based Midcourse Defense, GMD, then it was a great way for us to then bring in the regional system. So connecting Aegis with THAAD with Patriot. And so again, because of the global nature of missile defense, that's really what Command and Control Battle Management does. So you can kind of tear apart the acronym a little bit, right? Command and Control is one thing, and it means a lot to a lot of different people, but it's that word signifies to me, this is where the warfighter touches the system. So if you're going to fight this battle and you're General Van Herk up in NORTHCOM, you're going to see the tracks that are coming off of those sensors on the glass there in his command center so that he can fight this war. The battle management functions are those functions that when we have tracking information, classifies that track as a ballistic, a cruise missile, or something else. And then the communications pieces is how we move that information, across the different, parts of the system, whether it's a sensor, or another fire control system, or another weapon system. So, are we keeping up with the threat? Well, by our own nature, as you make a change, either in threat going against us from a homeland ballistic missile defense perspective or to the regional Aegis THAAD Patriot systems, then you want to have the appropriate upgrades. And you can choose from an engineering perspective how much C2 goes in C2BMC and how much of it stays in Aegis, as an example. How much of the battle management functions can you do at the broader level, or do you want to just leverage the battle management functions within Aegis? And so what we do is we synchronize the systems. So across Aegis and THAAD, Patriot, and GMD, we are synchronizing and we align those changes so that when we do an increment of missile defense capability, it's all synchronized and lined up. So to answer the question, I think it is keeping up with the threat, but it really starts with the changes we have to make to sensors, to weapons, and then in that command control area.
So elaborate a little about the upgrades, but also how C2BMC, as you evolve it, is really, it sounds a lot like what we're looking at when we talk about Joint All-Domain Command and Control. So how does C2BMC, how will that play into the development of that?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So C2BMC, if you actually open up our program record, we're actually going to integrate with JADC2. So JADC2, when you just listen to a joint all-domain, right, C2BMC is really about that domain of missile defense and the domain of space, the domain of air. We have some land and at-sea capability as well, right? So we start to look very all-domain. So I would say that today, where we are today, if you look at what JADC2 is doing in the long term, C2BMC is the JADC2 for MDA. But as we bring in other sensors and other service capabilities, then they just really just start to merge. And so again, program of record, we intend to connect with the JADC2. We have connected already with IBCS, we've connected with CEC. So there's various ways that you can do that.
Okay.
But it is important, from a joint or interoperability perspective, that it's all seamless to the warfighter. And there's a lot of work to be done to make sure that that's the case.